Okay, here we are. We're down in the dungeon. We are, have you ever heard of underground radio? Well, this is underground chillin'. Well, we're done with the brewing process, so it's underground chillin'. We're in the bowels of the house, the dungeon, the lowercase scenario. Anyways, we're about ready to chill this wort down, pour it in the carboy, pitcher of wort. I've never done this down in this area before, and the reason I'm bouncing up and down is because the camera level can't get too high, so I'm trying to not chop my head off, but if I do, oh well, whatever. And we're still sampling beer, which is all part of the process. It takes a lot of beer to make beer. We're going to tilt this up a little bit, and then we'll come down. We'll show you my wort chiller, which I haven't sanitized right now. We've got the kettle here, and we're going to set up our wort chiller. Now, a lot of guys will take and they will put, that'll be all right there. They'll put the wort chiller right in the wort in the kettle on the stove, let it boil. That will sanitize it. That's fine. If you want to do it that way, that's great. I always have done it by putting it in my Star San solution in my 5-gallon pail. I sanitize my 5-gallon carboy. I transfer the sanitized Star San, which I made up in my bucket first, from the bucket to the carboy, and the carboy back to the bucket. This is a money-saving thing that I saw on Brewing TV to save sanitizer. This is a fresh batch, so we're okay with it. But I've actually reused quite a few of my batches so that I don't have to make up anymore. And in this 5-gallon pail, I put all my stuff, my funnel. Anyway, this is my wort chiller, dripping all over. I'm going to put it in. Put it in the center. Hook it up to my faucet. And it's a coil. I made it myself. I thought, why pay somebody $60, $70 for a wort chiller when I can make one myself? So here we go. Cold water. And be very careful because the water coming out of this tube is boiling hot. It's actually, it's going to be distilled water because you're putting it through a coil. And then what I do is I stir my wort, get it chilled down. We want to try to hit 64 degrees, which is probably the coldest I've ever chilled it to. Probably not doing this exactly correctly by the book. This is just the way I've always done it. So, disclaimer here. It may not be the right way to do it. It's the way I've done it. Maybe I'm stirring some oxygen into this, which you really want to stay away from. But I can't keep it covered and stir at the same time. I just can't do it. And I do the best I can with this wort chiller. And of course I take a sample, dip that in some Star San thermometer, even though it was in the boil, and we'll see what kind of temp we've got here. This is critical of the whole brewing process. The ingredients in boiling water on the stove is no more than making a box of mac and cheese. This part here, chilling it down, is very critical because you want to be fast. You want to chill it down as fast as you can so that you don't get a lot of oxygen in or any contaminants into the wort. And right now we are still reading 124 degrees, so we're just going to keep going here. We're going to keep Keep that cold water flowing through the wort chiller. Keep stirring, stir it. The faster you stir it, the cooler it's going to get. But also, the more apt you are to draw oxygen in there. So, like I said, this has worked for me in the past. All my beer has turned out. It's just the way I've done it, you know. A lot of guys use an ice water bath around the outside of the pan. That's fine too, you know. But it takes ice, and some people do both, you know. They do the wort chiller and ice. Maybe that should have been a consideration today, but we are at 94 degrees, so we dropped fast. From 124 to 94, we dropped fast. You know, do the math, kids. That's a big temperature change. We're trying to reach a really decent cold break. And luckily, in Michigan, even though it's April, the water underground is still pretty cold, you know. I don't know exactly what the temperature is, but it's pretty cold, you know. I'm probably getting, well, I'm getting a good delta T across this coil. Well, I'm not going into delta T right now. We talk about that at work all the time. Okay, I'm still at 82, so I haven't dropped a lot since the last temperature. So we're going to keep going, keep chilling. Chillin' TV. Chillin' YouTube. Chillin' underground. Whatever you want to call it. I think my wort chiller, being homemade, has possibly an extra band or two of coil, is maybe why I get maybe a little more out of it than a chiller you could buy at this size. Alright, we've dropped to, we're at 70 degrees, folks, and I didn't even realize I didn't have it on full force, the water. I only had it on about 7/8. So we're at 70, okay? Being at 70 degrees, it says chill it to 64. The last batch of beer I did, the yeast product said pitch your yeast at 70. So I only chilled this to 80 some degrees, and then I added my cold water, and I'm going to sanitize my little pitcher there so that we can have that sanitized. Okay, we're good. I didn't time that. Don't have my watch on. Don't know what time, how long that took, but I think that was pretty fast. I think I was less than 5 minutes. I can probably track it on the video. So now, without getting any of this water that's gone through this coil into the wort, we are going to pull the wort chiller, and this is what usually makes the most mess. Normally I have a pail here, but I am not ready. I have a sink in the other room that I hurry up and run this to. You know, it's just a base dump. Who cares if I get a little bit on the floor, right? The cats will lick it up probably. Anyway, here we go. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to take another temp reading because I think I've got it. So, what we are going to do is we're going to set this off to the side. We are going to put a cover on it. We are going to take our pitcher out of the Star Sand solution. Don't fear the foam. It won't hurt you. It won't hurt anything. fill up with some water here. Take my foil off the top of my carboy, put my funnel in. We're going to fill up some water in this, just so we get a good mixture. We might even add a little bit of warm water to this. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pitch this wort. I'm ready to pitch. So here we go, folks. It's on the floor. We're going to pitch it. Hopefully I don't spill it. Trying to do this so that you get everything but the maybe grain dust on the bottom from the specialty grains, anything that's settled out. So you basically pour most of this in there, with the exception of any particles that have settled out on the bottom. And there's a lot of crap, so there we go. There's that. Now, I've got the side of my carboy, glass carboy, marked at the 5-gallon mark. We're going to fill it up with some water. This will give it a good mix. Maybe I can pan down on the camera here. You can kind of see maybe not. Flipped. Maybe not. Anyways, I was trying to get down so you could see what I was doing here. I don't know if you could, but the screen kept flipping. I have to do this rather quickly. Fill this up. Because it's funny. You don't want any air or oxygen or contaminants getting to your wort. But yet when you get it in the carboy, oxygen for the yeast, that's its friend. It wants oxygen. It thrives off it. So, anyway, make another adjustment there. Fill it up some more. I have a temperature gauge. Sorry, I'm out of camera now. I have a temperature gauge on the side of my carboy, which right now is not registering. I don't know. It doesn't feel awfully cold. It feels more like room temperature. So we're just going to keep going. Fill it up to my electrical tape line. We got a lot of foam on the top, which means we're getting a lot of air into the carboy, which is what you want, you know, for the yeast. It needs oxygen. Almost there. And we're there. So, with that, we're now going to take our yeast and our scissors. We're going to dip them in the Star San because we want to make completely sure that there's no contaminants on the outside of the bag or the scissors or anything. And this will kill everything on it. So I'm going to dip these in. Should be enough contact time, I would think, to kill anything. Star San is probably the best best friend of a brewer. Best thing you can have, you know. And this yeast here, because it's a lager yeast, I've always wanted to do an Oktoberfest. So I will probably try to harvest this yeast. I will probably try to harvest this yeast and make a starter out of it, which I've never done. All I'm going to do, pour some water in the bag, pour that in, check my level. My level's perfect. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, now what I normally do is I take the carboy and I rock it back and forth, get a lot of agitation, mix everything up, and then what I do is I use my turkey baster and I take a sample of the wort, put it in my hydrometer to see if I hit my target, which is 1050 for this beer. The reason I do this with the yeast already pitched, of course I saw this on YouTube again, so it's not my own idea. I do that and then I save what's in here, and usually a spare glass bottle that I have that I don't use for brewing beer, I save it. I put a paper towel in the top of it. I let it ferment at the same temperature as the large carboy. So in other words, I've got a mirror image of what's in the big carboy in the little beer bottle, and I can pour that out in 3 to 4 days. Whenever the yeast stops fermenting, I can pour that back into this, take a reading, and I will get my final reading and know the progress of this carboy. And I don't have to go into the big carboy, draw another sample. I don't have to do that again, as opposed to if I were to take a sample before I pitch the yeast, then I would have to take a sample later on, a different sample with yeast in it, to get my final gravity reading. So I'd have to go into the carboy, which could be the risk of contamination or anything like that. So I don't want to do that. So I can play around with this because I'm just going to pour out what's in this bottle. I'm just going to pour that out when I'm done. I'm not going to drink it. I'm going to throw it away. I lost 1 bottle of beer. I lose 2 the other way. So it's a way of saving things. It's a way of saving the whole carboy, though, from the act of contamination. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to rack it. I'm going to seal it with some Star San tin foil. I'm going to let it set. I'm going to put it in its spot down here. I'm going to get its blow-off tube set up, and I'm just going to leave it alone. I usually put a t-shirt on top of them, an old t-shirt like this. I cover it. Works perfect, you know. You put the neck through. Works perfect. Covers it up, keeps it nice and dark. Just lets it do its thing. Lets the yeast do its thing. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to rock it. We're going to mix it up really good. We're going to get some aeration going. I don't know if I can, where I'm at here, but I don't know if I can rock this. Get it up. These things are slippery too when they are glass and wet. Get a lot of aeration going. Get all that water and wort. And this is a chocolate brown color. Man, you would think this was a brown ale. You know, you would really think it was a brown ale. I just hope I'm right on my calculation. This is a 6-gallon carboy, and I think I got the 5-gallon mark right. Normally do that with my Star San. So now that we've take this, we're going to dip it in the Star San. We're going to get some in there. Outside, inside. Because this is going into the wort. This is going into the wort. I'm out of the camera scope because I tilted it down. Really need to have a cameraman that can follow me. Okay, that should be good. That should be sanitized enough. Go into the wort. Draw up as much as I can. Get it into here. Get a reading going. Usually takes a few. Smells good. Rather foamy. And like I said, this ends up being about a beer. Alright, we're going to let that set. And what I did the last time, and it seemed to work out pretty good. Sorry. Camera doesn't move with me, is I put a little extra in this bottle because for some reason, I don't know if I lose some in evaporation in that hydrometer, or well, not in the hydrometer, but in the bottle, that when I go to take my final, sometimes I just don't have enough to get a good reading. So I take a little extra and I put it in here. And that of course will be added to, and it's not a lot, it's just a little bit. Then I'll add what's in the hydrometer to this. Put a got a little bit of stuff on it. Where was I? Put a paper towel in it and let it set and ferment right next to this. Same temperature. I can keep checking that without having to go into this. So this has been aerated, I think, pretty good. You know, a lot of guys have an oxygen bottle and an aerator with a stone and all that they go into. I don't have that set up yet. So I have to work by, pure muscle. So I'm going to carry this into the other room, and I'm going to get it set up with its blow-off tube and say goodnight. And in 4 weeks we'll bottle it, and 2 weeks, 3 weeks after that we'll come back with a sample. So hopefully maybe this helps people out. I don't know. That's just the way I do things. Everybody does stuff different, but this is the way I've learned over time. By the end of the month I'll have 10 extract batches under my belt. They've all turned out. They all taste pretty good. So anyways, with that, my Strange Brew 32, cheers.